It's been almost 4 years since Nikon released the Z6II and almost 6 years since the original Z6 release. Now, the Z6 was Nikon's first mainstream mirrorless camera in the market, but has since been left in the dust by the likes of Sony and Canon. At least, that wasn't until Nikon came out with their flagship Z9 about a year ago. It gave us Nikon users hope. Hope that we could one day see the tech come into future budget-friendly models. And now with the Z6III finally updated and coming in at just under $2,500. Is this the answer we've been looking for? Hey, what's up? I'm Joe. This is Mod2Excel, and here I talk about the tech that goes into creating content as well as the live streaming. So with that in mind, let's deep dive into Nikon's biggest update yet. I have to admit it, I'm really excited about Nikon's Z6III as a photographer who's been shooting Nikon for almost 10 years. And I started out with a D5500 as my primary camera, and as my journey switched from photography to creating video content for like YouTube and streaming on Twitch, I found myself in a desperate need for more video features, and that's where the original Z6 came in. Now, the Z6 was my primary go-to camera since it was launched. However, as the competition flourished, I could see that the Z6 was falling behind, and to be honest, I was at a stage where I really was considering giving up on Nikon and just breaking up with them. In fact, I wrote a whole breakup video. You can watch it, I think, what corner is it? Somewhere over there. Yeah, I'm kicking my ass for that one, but we learn lessons, right? So the Z6III, honestly, as soon as I laid hands on it, I was impressed. Hands down. When I first laid my hands on it, I was blown away impressed. Like, let's talk about just how solid and strong the camera feels in the hands. It is slightly bigger than the original Z6, and there are some modifications to the button placements. However, with additions to the flip tilt screen, heavy improvements to the focus system, and a barrage of options in video formats, not only is this daunting, like for a person who's upgrading or coming into mirrorless for the first time, but it's pretty damn tantalizing for someone who's really lacking a lot of those features and looking to upgrade. In my opinion, the Z6III is way overpowered. And let's talk about the specs. Similar to its original, the Z6III is sporting a 24.5 megapixel sensor. And however, unlike its predecessors, this is actual partially stacked sensor. Now, you're not getting the same exact sensor layout as the Z9 and Z8. However, you are still getting the same X-Speed 7 processor, which is full speed and performance. So much performance, from a photo standpoint, you could shoot up to 60 frames per second in full frame mode and 120 frames per second in DX mode. Now, mind you, it is in JPEG. Still not raw, but that's still an amazing feat and better than nothing. Let's not also forget video mode. You get up to 6K 60 frames per second raw internal capture. Yeah, I said that. You can record in N-Log or ProRes in your internal card. Yes, how insane is that? Additionally, you have an 8-stop IBIS built in for stabilization. You also get your standard headphone and mic jacks. Now, one of the new options for the headphone jack is the powered line in. So this means you can use an external mixer and push that line in signal directly into your camera. Also, you do have full HDMI output. Yes, a full HDMI. No longer do you have to work with micro HDMI cords. Thank the Lord. The full HDMI out is actually going to be hugely favored for anyone who's streaming or recording with an external recorder. Honestly, I'm here for it. As with the Z6II, you do get a dual card slot, both a CF Express and SD card. However, when it comes to video mode, you don't get that redundant recording option as you would in photography mode. Now, we could talk more about this later, but it is kind of disappointing to hear. You do get the ability to charge via USB-C. However, you only get the USB-C cable in the box. You don't get an ancillary charger for your battery. So as far as batteries goes, yes, it runs on the ENEL15C, which you can charge through your camera, but that's all you get in the box. Another new feature is the cloud service. Now, Nikon launched this just after I had my hands on with the camera, so I wasn't able to really test it out, but it's a cloud service, and with it enabled, you're able to upload all of your images from your camera to the cloud service, and you can access them from other devices at a later time. Now, with all the tech specs out of the way, let's talk about true performance. Now, I'm going to put it straight. This is a solid upgrade for anyone coming from the original Z6 or lower, and that includes all my DSLR variants. If you're on a D7500 or even a D850, the Nikon Z6 Mark III or version 3 is honestly a heavy contender to be your next camera. This is a solid upgrade. You get a partially stacked sensor, like I said, with the X-Speed 7 processor, so you get fast and sharp autofocus, and accuracy of that focus has greatly been improved. Now, one of my biggest complaints with the Z6 is when I'm trying to lock onto a subject and I'm not using 3D tracking, sometimes I have to fight with the focus system to get my subject in frame. However, the Z6 III just works and it doesn't get distracted as much as my original Z6 did. And it is a godsend, trust me. And as I said before, it feels good in the hands. Even without a grip, which you could buy an accessory grip if you wanted to, it feels heavy, it feels solid, but it feels light. Combining it with my 24-70 lens, it just felt solid, and honestly, the lens felt more heavier than the body, but it still felt balanced. And that's really when it comes down to when you're vlogging or shooting video for long periods of time or shooting photos. You want to have that balanced feel, and it felt perfect. And can we also talk about the EVF? Now, Nikon's still one of the best companies with EVFs. The fact that it can match 120 frames per second, so you're seeing what you're getting in a camera in your EVF, is just chef's kiss. That way you know you're not missing any shots. And the flip out articulating screen, it works. Like, I'll be honest with you, if I wanted to watch a video of me recording stuff, I'm just gonna buy an external monitor. I was actually one that was in favor of the old, or even like the Z9 and Z8, where you have that tilt axis kind of either one way or another. The problem with articulating screens like this, the flip out screens, is you're not always straight on. So when you're trying to like angle the right shot, you could be just slightly askew. Yeah, you could probably fix it in post, but if you're insane with lines like I can be sometimes, then it might matter. I did test this camera running 4K 60 over a 30-minute time span, and I had no issues of overheating. Of course, I was in a controlled environment in my room where it averaged about 80 degrees. So I personally didn't have issues where something like my Z30 just can shit out. Video wise, the Z6 III has a ton of modes to shoot video in. You get 8-bit to 12-bit, and it supports both ProRes, 422, and N-Log. If you do plan to use this for primarily video work, in the Nikon Z6 III, you only get the option to choose either to your CF Express card or to your SD card. I did run into some quirks while working with the camera, and it was a brand new model. I took the plastic off and everything, but it was a loaner, so so take these with a grain of salt. Maybe it was just my device, maybe it just wasn't updated because the firmware wasn't released yet. But here are some of those quirks. Battery life. Battery life drained way too quicker than I'm used to. Now, granted, I had ENEL 15As and 15Bs, and it's meant for a 15C. When I got the loaner, it didn't come with a C battery. So unfortunately, again, take it with a grain of salt. But what I noticed is that between the 15C and the other options, the 15C does have more, has a bigger battery capacity. So it's designed for that recharging up to that higher capacity. When I had left the batteries in the camera and I was at 100% and I left it overnight because I was going to shoot the next day, they were drained to 0. Now, mind you, on my original Z6, I could leave my battery in there and it would maybe degrade, honestly, like maybe 5%. And this is the same battery in both cameras. So it really didn't tell me it was a battery issue. But again, I didn't have a 15C in my loaner. Another issue with batteries, a dummy battery unit was not able to work within the camera. So I couldn't use my V-mount battery, at least through a D-tapped to dummy battery. I was able to use it via USB-C and charge it and use the V-mount battery as an external source, but it was going through a USB-C option and not directly through the power port. So again, take that as you will, but this may not be, people who are buying this and thinking they could just, plug it into a wall or use a dummy battery, it's not gonna work like that. So final thoughts. Overall, honestly, I want a Z6 III. I want to save my money, count my pennies, and buy my own because it's a huge step up. Like, it is, honestly, it's what I wanted in my Z6. If you are a Z6 shooter, you have a Z6 the first gen, or even a Z6 II, or any mirror camera, any DSLR, and you're trying to stay with Nikon and step into the ring, the Z6 III is your cheapest option. Don't consider the ZF. I mean, the ZF's good, and it has the XP7 processor, but there is a limitation to what it can do versus the Z6 III. You get more video modes, you get internal recording, and you also get that partially stacked sensor, where the ZF just has an XP7 sensor. This has a partial stacked sensor. If you are a DSLR shooter and you've really been waiting to get into a mirrorless camera and you don't want to spend the money for like a Z9 or Z8, the Z6 III is a huge, huge improvement. And I've been shooting Nikon, like I said, for over 10 years, and I haven't been excited for a camera like I was with that. Like, I got excited when I tried out the Z9, and I realized, like, well, I'm not professional enough for that. But the Z6 III, honestly, hands down. So if you like this video, make sure you comment below, ask any questions that you had, or talk to me about your experience if you did buy it, or if you're buying it right now, what you're excited for or looking for. Otherwise, I'm Joe, this has been Mod to Excel, and if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel because we post some really cool stuff. If you're a new content creator, check out some of this vid right here. This is probably going to help you. Maybe. Well, it should. But you like me because we're friends, so go click it. Do it now.